Good morning, welcome to it. Blogz on Ballz, a couple minutes late today. Slight technical problem. Turns out I walked into a machine or something. I'm going to blame myself, and I do apologize. But here we are, all of 2 minutes late. We've got a great show lined up, as always. Simply Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Ben?
Well, yes, very good. Slightly accident prone, but very good. Great show today. We've got a lot of rugby headlines. It seems that all kinds of things are happening, from domestic violence, players leaving clubs over pay disputes, and of course the injury toll for the Sharks just keeps mounting up. On top of that, well, football seems to be becoming a more and more sort of permanent feature of this show. We've got some great headlines. Of course, a lot of things happened last night. Man United getting their 20th title. We've got Keegan Kruger coming in to tell us all about that. And of course, Sean and I will also share our football smarts. Later in the show, we have Sport Billy coming in. We're going to give him a full hour this week. We felt quite bad last week, then he got 40 minutes. So we've got your usual icon of the week, the Sports Willie of the week. And then we've got a very interesting sort of discussion topic where, brought on by the Suarez biting incident, we're going to talk about the worst acts of, well, thuggery or just general douchiness in sport. So if you think about it, there's been Tyson with the biting, that Chappell guy rolled the ball in the cricket. There's a lot of dickhead sporting acts out there. So between the three of us, we're going to unpack them and we're going to give them a full go. Sean, anything else to add? It's been a good intro, huh? You notice we got intro music back.
Pretty comprehensive, I must say. I like to, yeah, no, look, it's been a fabulous week for any kind of like sports news watching around. I mean, you've had victory of drama, players moving, foul play. Oh, it's just lots of juicy topics.
A little bit of spice to everyone here. Yeah, and winter is definitely here. So I think if you do watch those visually, you'll start seeing a lot more scarves and cardigans and coats and jackets. Don't judge us, just the aircon here is quite brisk.
Yeah, they keep us honest around here, I must say.
They keep us very honest. We've also got 3 new contestants in the SA swimsuit competition that we are going to present to you today. Last week, a girl by the name of Rachel won. She was the overwhelming winner. Sean, we've also got a new theme for music this week. Now, I thought about this long and hard. And when I say long and hard, well...
Indeed. From
several minutes. So I'm going to turn the background music down. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back with the first track. The theme for today is Songs from My Phone.
Songs from my phone, you say?
Yeah. Kicking off with Goldfish. Take Back Tomorrow. Listen to Blogz on Ballz. Catch you after this. That's the new one from Goldfish. Great track that is, Sean. We've got actually quite a cool lineup. We've got... we've got Calvin Harris, we've got Gorillaz, we've got Daft Punk, the new one. Everyone's playing that right now.
Yeah.
I know we're here for sport, but let's not miss a beat on the music front as well. We've got Swedish House Mafia, we've got Pitbull featuring JR, we've got Prada, we've got The Lonely Island, we've got Mike Snow. Wow, it's actually just all happening.
It's just one big party on your phone.
It's a big party on my phone, it really is. Apparently there's a bit of a party in the studio yesterday as well for Ian and Sasha's birthday. Sasha, of course, is the Gears man. Ian is with him on the 1F F1 show. And Tequila was in the studio.
It's Tequila Tuesday a day early, I bet, yeah.
Yeah, sounds like great fun, huh? Well, as always, we're going to get straight into the headlines. We don't want to keep anyone waiting today. Yeah, Sean, I've had a plan today. Today we're going to be so time efficient. We're going to be on the money. We're not going to keep anyone waiting. And we're going to get through everything. It's a bold claim, I know.
Well, let's kick off.
Okay. Kicking off indeed. Manchester United win their 20th British or English Premiership title.
Yes, secured it last night, which is one of the earliest that the title's been secured. I think it was like once there was a title secured on the 12th of April or something, but this is one of the earliest times the title's been wrapped up. And all the criticism throughout the year, people saying this might not be the Manchester United's best side, or Alex Ferguson's best side. Mm-hmm. Well, look at them, just carry away with this. It's an incredible achievement again, and just ratifying just what a great coach Ferguson is.
Completely.
It's unbelievable.
He just knows what to do. He should actually go to another sport just to really truly test his genius. Remember a while ago, just quickly go off topic for a slight moment here, Clive Woodward, he was the one who was with England, got the World Cup, and then he thought, I'll go do this football thing.
Indeed. Well, tennis was his first love.
Yeah.
I read a book of his, and one of the big things was his dad, when he was a kid, took him away from playing football so he could play rugby in a boarding school, and he'd never forgiven him for that.
Okay.
And just wanted to take up football. So Woodward gave it a go with Southampton.
Yeah, Southampton.
More in a kind of ended up being the kind of director of football role as opposed to coaching. One of those that we keep complaining about every week. But yeah, Ferguson should do that, because the thing about him is Ferguson just looks so unsatisfied every time he wins.
Yeah.
You saw them last night, 3-0 up after half an hour, whatever it was. Title secured. Should be party time at Old Trafford. There he is, egging them on for the fourth, shouting at them when they miss or when get out of position. He just always seems unsatisfied, Ferguson. It's probably his greatest trait.
Yeah, I think excellence becomes ingrained with that. Moving on, Zane Kirshner has been offered 3.6 million rand a year to play for Leinster.
What are South African comedians and photoshoppers going to do now that this man is gone?
Well, okay, I'm just going to give a little bit of credit to Zane here. You know how we always say he's cuck, basically, and he's lucky to be in the Bok team, and there's so many better guys that should play. I think the moment you get an overseas contract, that is your time to know that you're being acknowledged. Finally, he's got recognition. He's been given a multi-million rand deal.
Yeah, look, I think we've been harsh on Kirshner in the past, and especially currently. Like, without Kirshner at fullback, there's only a few options that we're left to deal with here. Certainly those with international experience. We could look at Willie Leroux. We could look at possibly Joe Peterson, Louis Ludik when he gets fit.
Yeah.
But I mean, Kirshner's been quite a servant to us. And the one thing about this move, which makes it interesting, is he's not just going to walk into that Leinster team. Rob Kearney is their fullback, and he's even younger than Kirshner, and he's probably one of the big contenders to be one of the British Lions fullbacks.
So do you not think Leinster are going for a high-profile exotic move here?
I'm not quite sure where Kirshner's going to fit in with all this, to be honest. I think you might even find Kirshner playing at centre a little bit overseas.
Yeah, they're probably looking at him because whenever he goes overseas, we tend to play him at centre. So maybe that's what they think he is.
He always seems to crop up at centre against Ireland as well.
Exactly.
So maybe they just think he's a 13, which in fact is a genius move.
Okay, so Zane's been offered 3.6 million rand to go play centre for Leinster. Good for him. On to some slightly less savoury rugby news. Sevilla has been kind of, charged with a bit of domestic violence. Turning his hand to the wife in the good old Maori culture.
Judging by his comments, he looks guilty as well.
Yeah, I think he is. He looks remorseful too. But the worst thing about this is that when I was in New Zealand in 2011, you'd often go to bars and you'd find posters saying "keep the aggro on the field," or blow the whistle on wife beating and stuff like that. And I thought these are very they're everywhere. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's such a problem over there that they then have this new campaign called "It's Not Okay." A whole bunch of people rally around and say it's not okay to obviously beat your wife and domestic violence and stuff like that. It's become such a trait of the culture.
I know the domestic violence statistics are hectic in New Zealand. Yeah.
So then Sevilla was actually the face of the "Violence is not my game" campaign within that.
That's right.
Yeah. Rough, eh?
That's right.
Anyway, he was allowed to play for against the Force on Friday, despite all this hanging over his head.
And he really didn't look himself as well. I mean, as you can understand, but it was definitely his worst game for the Hurricanes outfit, I find.
For sure.
This is gonna affect the season.
But Siri Vatu had the exact same thing not so long ago. Graham Henry actually said to him, "If this keeps going, you will not be an All Black." So.
And even though you look at Sylvie Vatu now Sylvie Vatu's in France playing for Clermont.
Yeah.
Trying to. I don't know how much that had to do with it, but there you go. There was a guy.
Well, apparently there's going to be steps put in place now to kind of curb this because they're finding that all these young sports stars are becoming more and more alcohol. If you look at Australians as well, we've spoken about this.
Well, just look at All Black wingers this year. I mean, really, between Sevilla and Guildford.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite the party happening on the outside of the All Black backline.
Yeah, that little outpost in the little bottom right corner of the world.
Yeah.
Anyway, more rugby news. All our headlines are basically rugby this week. I scoured the internet and all I could find was rugby stuff. So, Etzebeth, Fourie, Steenkamp and Elstead all renew their contracts for Western Province Rugby Union / the Stormers, which is a really good move because if you look at up-and-coming talent, I know the Province and Stormers in general get a lot of stick for losing young talent. That is one argument I actually won't humour. I think that as teams go, I think they do a decent job, and that the players we've lost are hardly, other than Francois Lowe, I can't say I'm crying about anybody. That whole Pollard thing was, his dad was a bit of a douche. He had no business savvy whatsoever. He got totally eyeballed with the money, I think. So it's good that they do have these players, and of course, the Ranger as well, Kitsov, another homegrown local talent. So, it's the core. This is the future of your team, and they've all signed new contracts.
They've certainly kept a decent line. Once you've been in the Stormers setup, in the squad, and in the Province setup, in capped, the Stormers and Province ratio of holding on to the player is reasonable, I would reckon. It is reasonable. I mean, you could see Habana moving now, but it's just the time for Habana to move. The guy just turned 30. They're all going to look for a payday in France.
It's fine. I think he's gone long enough.
Francois disappointing. This is them. And remembering Dion Fourie went back on a decision to go to France last year. He was going to go to Toulon, I think it was Toulon or Toulouse. I think it was Toulon. But he went back on that decision and said, no, I'm going to stay at Province. Now that he's had an extended contract, Etzebeth is probably the hottest property when fit and considering his age.
21.
So, I mean, it's quite a statement to get all those guys. I think it was 2-3 years.
Yeah, that's good. No, they've all penned deals to 2015.
And amidst all these guys leaving, that's such a bit of happy news for South African rugby for a bit.
Well, yeah, speaking of leaving, JP Peterson has apparently been offered a monster deal to go to Japan, where it makes total sense for him. Late 20s, he's getting more and more injury prone, I suppose. And when they say monster deal, apparently it's going to be one of those that we'll hear about in like different sort of levels.
Look, and he's tried really hard to accommodate the Sharks and the Springboks in this deal as well, in the credit to him. A lot of the time with these guys moving to Japan, they just seem to be their club. And I can understand this point of view from a Japanese club, of course. They're offering them so much money.
Exactly.
You're just going to say to them, look, could you curb the international rugby? Maybe just retire, make yourself unavailable, like kind of Jacques Fourie has for the last couple of years.
Please be Jacques Fourie. Please be Jacques Fourie, but like a forward and a wing and a flank.
But he's trying really hard to accommodate some international duties, so he won't be available for
fair enough.
for the rugby championship, but for the end of year tour, can play for the Sharks and Super Rugby. He's tried, but this is going to be a monster deal, and this is not going to stop. And at what point, with all these players going, are we going to treat Japan like a joke league? Because we always just say, it's easy rugby that they go and play, but at some point there's going to be enough international professionals.
Yeah, but Sean, it's all twilight of career stuff. The guys can't be that focused. They gym a lot, but I mean, they're not putting in the time with the tackle bags.
Jeez, I don't know. Hey, I mean, you got guys on big money. You got Jacques Fourie, where they left at a really, when he was playing top rugby in his career. Yeah. Peterson, you can argue, has still got some of his best years ahead of him.
Another reason these guys get the big money and they go over this is because they're trying to promote the game to get for the Rugby World Cup coming up. So I remember when Simon and I interviewed Peter Grant on the afternoon show here on Ballz a while ago. And he was saying that when you go over there, it's really great. They look after you, but at the same time, you do a lot of sort of like exposure of the game. So you go off into these towns and you have clinics because they're constantly trying to ram it home that rugby's our new game we're getting involved in. Obviously, I don't know how big football is. Obviously, it's going to be huge because it's the world's biggest game. Blah, blah,
That's
blah.
Brilliant. And the World Cup's going to be hosted there in 2019?
Yeah.
In Japan?
So they're getting all these stars over there to get all the awareness going. So by the time 2019 comes around, they basically know their words to haka. And but more bad news for the Sharks is the Beast is out of their tour. Now, this is getting quite worrying for the Sharks in that they have to now, as always, turn to the Lions. Luckily, the Lions are just chilling in Hillbrow right now, so they can just go and say, okay, we need a prop, tight head, 2 loose heads, a lock.
Yeah, it seems like JC van Rensburg got a call immediately when Beast went down, as soon as he limped off.
Yeah, good for you, JC.
There was a Lions that debuted on the weekend for the Sharks and got injured. Andries Coetzee.
Yeah, the wing.
Yeah. I was injured in the first game, so that the debutant from last week could come on.
But it's like, the thing is, the Sharks worry me right now is because the Stormers were, but not scoring tries. But when we say not scoring tries, the Stormers scored 1 or 2. The Sharks are not scoring tries. They've scored 13 all season, 10 of which came against the Rebels.
Yeah.
And there's still rumors out that they were actually drunk with on the field. So who knows?
No. And just the nature. I mean, we're going to touch more on the Sharks later, and the nature of how some senior players are getting dropped for whatever reason that doesn't need to get into. But it's just here you got some serious guys getting injured. Some guys. I mean, they got the Chiefs this weekend as well. It's rough. It's going to be really, really rough for the Sharks.
Yeah. Well, not so rough for Habana. He's back. He will start against the Canes in Palmerston North. Has been confirmed. Digby Ione quits set to quit the Reds because of payment disputes. Now, he says there's third-party things haven't been paid, and then Reds are basically saying, not a chance, mate. You paid up. So he's got 1 more year in his contract, but he's already said this is it. Finishing the season off, and that's it.
Yeah, we'll see where that leads as well. I mean, I think it's probably end up being going. It looks a little bit. Yeah, it looks a little ugly there.
I think there's 2 sides to the story, and I'll tell you what, I think both sides are going to be going hammer and tongue on this one. Yeah. On to some cricket news now. Hashim Amla joins the Cobras. Now, we were saying off air a little earlier, this is about as significant a story as what Simon's T-shirt is today. Because, let's face it, Proteas don't play domestic cricket.
Exactly. Like, he's not going to play at all, I reckon.
Is this just Nashua looking for a photo opportunity?
Absolutely.
Let's get Hash in the Cobras shirt. We'll never see him play, but let's have him.
And in fairness, it's kind of the way that they use Dale Steyn as well.
Yeah.
In fairness as well. Well, I was thinking about, I mean, again, it's quite a non-story when these Proteas that are obviously going to stay in the setup for quite a while. Like, I don't see Hashim being dropped from any format for a while. I mean, his form has to be exceptionally poor, and then maybe.
No, I think they have to find Hashim with prostitutes he has to have some sort of racial slur. You've got to throw the kitchen sink to drop this guy because he's that valuable to us. I don't think it's going to happen. So if you're looking to see Hashem in blue anytime soon, I don't think it's going to happen, but he is one of your players.
You might have to Wayne Parnell it in the hotel room, but it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen at all. But the thing, what I was thinking was, if we ignore international duty for a moment and say that everyone would come back to international duty, is there a stronger provincial side than the Cobras? I know I'm going to sound very Cape Town centric here, but between Vernon Philander, Dale Steyn, Graham Smith, now Hashim Amla, Jacques Callis, although I lose track of Jacques Callis, is he back at the Cobras? No, he's at the Cobras. He had that little stint at the Warriors with a pay dispute.
Yeah, or whatever it is.
But whatever it is. But there can't be a stronger provincial side if everyone's available, I reckon.
I think that the only real winner here for Hashem joining the Cobras is when you buy the cricket on PlayStation and when you play the Cobras, because now you get Hashem in your starting lineup. That is the only win of this whole deal.
That's a very, very good point.
So,
EA Sports covers it.
Yeah, EA Sports is the real winner here. Tomorrow, not Hashem, talking about greats, Sachin Tendulkar turns 40 tomorrow.
The amazing thing about this story is I can't believe he wasn't 40 yet.
Yeah, it feels like he's been 42 for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that
he's like the reverse Shahid Afridi. So Sachin turns 40 next year. Sorry, again tomorrow, and no intentions of retiring whatsoever. Now I've got a bit of a conspiracy theory around here: is that the BCCI won't let him retire because he is bums on seats. The day that Sachin retires, they're going to have to trump up Virat Kohli.
Absolutely.
They probably have to bring Sreesanth back in the team. Like they're struggling. It's like replacing a soap star. That's what it's come down to for the Indians now. But personally, his average is about 26 in tests. I think he should, just go away very gracefully.
And they might even have to look at how they use the DRS system without Tendulkar around. There's lots of conspiracy theories around going that Tendulkar is part of the reason why. But anyway, we'll see. It's just, I think he might have left it too late already in terms of leaving on a high. I mean, riding him off is quite a risky thing to do because it's Sachin Tendulkar here.
Yeah.
But it's been a bit lean the last couple of years. I really thought him winning the 2011 World Cup finally for India was just the mark to do.
That's the high.
And now I'm struggling to see a mark where it makes sense for Tendulkar to retire.
Well, I think next week what we're going to do is we're going to bring in one of our overseas cricket specialists, and we're actually going to find out what Tendulkar could do when he retires. I'm going to write a piece about this. Bloggers out there, don't steal it, because it fascinates me in that he was a test cricketer from the age of 16. Okay, so he never had to actually develop any sort of social skills. I
saw a stat on Twitter today. It's 58% of his life he's been an active professional cricketer.
Ridiculous.
Unbelievable. Hey?
He never has to basically what do you call it? Money's fine, so you don't have to worry about that. So what is he going to do with his time? We'll tell you next week in a bit of a sort of more satirical stance. Final headline before we move on: Tyson follows Suarez literally an hour after the biting incident on Twitter. Now, I thought this was a bit of a spicy story, but it's actually true. So, what...
Possibly my favorite part of the whole Suarez incident.
Does Tyson go on Twitter and just look for #bite?
Sport bites. I'm not sure how much football Tyson watches. I'm sure he does.
Oh, wow. There I was trolling my favorite hashtag, and I find Luis Suarez. I'm going to follow this guy.
You should go through his history. He probably follows a netballer that was caught biting, and maybe someone that caught in the Yukskay game. Who knows?
Anyway, that's it for our headlines for this week. We're going to come back with Simply Sean's weekly What We Can Learn from Super Rugby. Big weekend, of course, right behind us. First up, the new one from Daft Punk with Pharrell. Let's Get Lucky here on Ballz. Blogz on Ballz, every Tuesday, 10 till 12. What is this? Some like to get lucky. Like to get lucky. Like to get lucky. It's the latest one from Daft Punk featuring Pharrell. Get Lucky. Sure, I like the song, but I gotta disagree with some of the lyrics. If you gotta stay up all night to get lucky, I don't know if you're going about it in the right way.
I can sympathize.
There was an episode of How I Met Your Mother saying, I think it was, if you're out past 2 o'clock, no good can come from it. So yes, Pharrell, you and your bajillions of dollars and your cool hip-hop looks, I disagree with you there. So Sean, it was a great weekend of Super Rugby. There again were some how did that happen moments. Waratahs winning. Chiefs losing to them, that was a bit of a shock for me. Kings got brought back to reality. Highlanders, no surprises there. No chance of ever winning again by the looks of things. What were the other big things for you? You, of course, every week on your site, simplysean.co.za. Is that right?
That is right. That is correct.
You write a fantastic piece called What We Can Learn from Super Rugby, insert relevant week. So this week, Sean, what can we learn from Super Rugby?
Yeah, so always just try to pick 5 points, possibly where the tournament switches and how and how we can anticipate just interesting points that have come up that we possibly hadn't seen in the past before, or the week before. The first point I would look at is just, for starters, for looking at how good the Bulls were. I think we've always had this notion that the Bulls are going to be scary in the future, that they're in a rebuilding phase and they're going to be scary in the future.
After losing the stars,
scary in the future. They're going to be scary right now.
Well, I've got to say, Jan Vermaak for a start is better than Gougaard. Let's just make that perfectly clear. And you can't rule out Jan Serfontein looking like a veteran already.
Jan Serfontein was brilliant.
Very, very good. Everything you want from an inside centre.
I thought Lionel Mapu had a huge game as well.
Yeah.
I thought the pack was dominated as always. So it was the same formula that the Bulls have used all the years that we know so well. You know, kind of strangle the opposition, use kicking for territory to push them down. You know, just the real kind of just uncompromising game plan and just not letting anything out. But there was just a little bit of flair added in.
Well, Sean, I'm just going to stop you on that point there. I'm going to come out and say this right now, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I think in full flight, I don't think there's a more exciting team in SA than the Bulls. If you just look back, when they demolished teams, they re-demolished teams. That final against the Chiefs back in 2009?
Yeah.
65-17 or something? When those guys were in full flight, like a couple of their tries against the Kings, wet weather, okay? They... You saw the game against the Cheetahs, the Sharks Cheetahs. It was the most dire, horrible Six Nations crap ever. Same conditions, basically, and look how they're running the ball. And because they've got talented backs, hard, fast running backs.
Yeah. Look, I'll pose another question to you. Is there a better team in the country, better than just getting it down the line? It's kind of between them and the Cheetahs.
Well, take Van Olifia out of the mix, and yes, the ball does go down the line very well.
Yeah. No, they were just... I just thought they were excellent at the moment. And you can just see that just the whole Bulls machine just keeps on... keeping on, as the kids say these days. You know, it just, they've got a culture that's been built on, and no matter who comes in, they can build on it. You know, yes, they'll have it tapped into the intensity. I thought one of the things that came from that game was such a huge crowd at PE. Yeah. And even though it was the PE's home side, I think the Kings were a little bit in awe of their own home crowd. To be honest, I think a little starstruck by their own home, and the Bulls just looked like the team that could really just deal with that kind of occasion. The better, you know.
Well, it was, and people always say, you know, still the Kings are going to be the whipping boys, but to go there and make them scoreless, that's quite something, and I think that's a great performance from the Bulls.
Absolutely. And looking at their schedule, look, they had a monster tour, the Bulls. It was a horrible, horrible schedule for them. It was the Blues away, the Crusaders away, the Reds away, and the Brumbies away. It doesn't really get harder than that. In fact, that's the top two of each conference, I think, except for the Crusaders, but the Crusaders are the Crusaders.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's left them some tour fixtures of guys coming to Loftus, which just look a lot more winnable.
Yeah.
It's the Waratahs this weekend. I'm not going to...
Nice.
I'm not going to say that the Waratahs are going to win at Loftus.
Well, about 15.
Be the Hurricanes after that on their first game of tour.
Well, about 15 again.
And then they got to buy. I'm backing them for getting 13 points plus in those 3 weeks.
We're looking at 13, 14 points, no doubt.
Yeah, and then they're unbeaten at Loftus. They still have to play the Sharks twice, but the Sharks are going to have to turn their season around if they're going to want to.
Yeah, they do.
If they're going to win some derbies against the Bulls.
They have to go to Newlands.
Yeah, they have to go to Newlands, and they have to go to Bloemfontein. Those will be hard fixtures, but they're certainly not going to go down. The Bulls are serious contenders. I mean, you could say injuries at key areas, as with most teams, could affect them a lot. But they're real contenders to win this conference, whereas I think a lot of us automatically picked them as third.
Yeah, I know I did. I think I even picked the Highlanders above them in the overall log. But let's move on to the next point there, Sean.
Moving on to the Sharks, basically just what is going on at the Sharks at the moment? I thought, look, I thought that was a dirgeful game on the weekend. Not just for the conditions.
Dirgeful, opening up with another big word there.
I think I made up that word as well. It was...
Well, we'll let it fly here. I know what you mean.
I thought there was just yes, the conditions were awful and it was hard to handle, but there was just such poor decision making going on in that game. I just thought it was a bad advert for rugby, quite frankly. I think both teams could look at it and say we could have done better. The Cheetahs are going to love it, obviously coming away with that result. And if you offered them do whatever you can to win at Kings Park, they would have said take it, definitely. But I really didn't think they started that game well at all. And just the tactical kicking was so poor. But going on to the Sharks themselves, the injuries going on doesn't help. Yeah. Of course, there's a lot of senior players getting injured, but the senior players that are getting dropped as well. I'm not saying I disagree with all the guys getting dropped, but it really doesn't help when the senior players can't contribute to the starting 15 for whatever reason. And
it's tough as someone like Plums, because if a guy's not performing, you can't keep him in there, because then the young players get despondent. So it's a real tough position to be in, the coach. And I've never seen Plums look so sour.
It stuffs up all his plans. I mean, Frontstein was the captain of this side a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Now he's on the bench and the whole country agrees.
Now he's fat on the bench.
Now he's taking up his spot on the bench and somebody else's as well. We all agree.
Thin for the win, Francois. Thin for the win.
I think if there's any heart, you got to agree with Yanni Duplessis getting dropped.
Yeah, but that's purely maintenance.
Dropped, rested.
Yeah, that's management. Yeah,
of course. I mean, the guy had a killer season last year. He's clearly carrying a bit of that baggage last year for his workload. I think he played 34 games, or 35 games last year.
Every game. He was playing games of touch rugby on the beach afterwards.
As a tight head prop. I mean, that's hectic. But Kankowski, I think, is the most interesting one and possibly the juiciest one. Yeah, not been in form, and you could possibly pick a better balanced pack without him at the moment, looking at purely form. But to drop him out of the whole squad to go on tour, it looks a little bit of overkill.
There's something happening there. I don't know. I haven't heard any stories, and I'm not going to entertain any rumors at this stage. But there must be something up there.
Yeah. I don't want to entertain the rumors like too much about it.
Does Plum have a younger daughter? Or?
Who knows?
Something's going on there.
But it's just something that's just like really, really unhealthy. And now they're coming on the back of a really, really hard tour. It's got the Chiefs this weekend. That's not easy. Then they got the Highlanders. That should be easy. Well, it should be if the Sharks get it. It should be if the Highlanders stay on current form, the Sharks should back themselves there. The Reds away, that fixture is a bitch in Brisbane. That fixture is a bitch. And then the Force. So they're looking at. So they'll probably. It's just a terrible timing. It's just such terrible timing. And halfway through the tournament, it just seems to be unraveling a bit.
So suddenly, the conference trophy here, not that it's something to win, but just talk about it as like a monumental thing for now. The conference title looks to be swinging quite drastically towards the sort of Cheetahs Bulls axis now.
Yeah, look, like we say, we're only halfway through this tournament as well. Like any shift that the tournament has had to this stage can be reversed in the next 8 games that will come.
That said, though, but your points about what the Bulls have in front of them, what the Sharks have in front of them, just on that merit. I mean, you got to think that the Bulls are going to eclipse the Sharks.
Definitely, it's
looking run away from them.
It's looking really, really good for the Bulls. It's looking lovely for the Cheetahs as well because the Cheetahs haven't had a bye yet. That's the one thing about them. Like 27 log points, 1 point off the conference leader, and they still need to have their 8 points free, whereas the other teams have all had 4 points free, and the Stormers have had 8 points free. That just gives you an idea of how big a hole they're in.
Oh, terrible.
But looking at that, so the Cheetahs are all going to be in South Africa, of course, because their tour is done.
Yeah.
You miss 2 opponents. The way the scheduling works, every South African team misses an Australian team, misses a New Zealand team. They don't get to play the Brumbies and the Crusaders. That is a very sweet deal that the fixtures gave them. And a lot of the games still in Bloemfontein. You're right, for the Bulls and the Cheetahs, it's really, really looking good. With the Stormers and the Sharks,
not just that, they could actually pull away now and have a bit of a gap. So very interesting times ahead. On to your next point there, Sean.
Yes, we've all been ripping off Aussie derbies down the week.
Yep.
And every week of them. But I'll tell you what, that game between the Reds and the Brumbies on the weekend in Brisbane was a real cracker. And that's it. I brought out the cracker. It's a word I try to avoid because it's been overused far too much in the world. But I thought it was just a fabulous game of rugby. The pace was intense. The skills on offer were great. And you could just see the needle in it. It's become, traditionally, the big derby was the Reds and the Waratahs down the years.
Yeah, sure.
In fact, like pre-Super Rugby, those are the only 2 areas that really played rugby properly. But now, the balance of power has really shifted between the Reds and the Brumbies being a real kick-ass Australian derby at the moment. The Lions tour might have something to do with it as well. There's a few guys with the points to prove. But really, looking at that game, and it's got international ramifications, this, obviously. Looking at the game, there's been a lot of predictions in this country thinking that the Lions are going to that the British and Irish Lions are going to take it at the end of the year.
Well, exactly.
If you look at that game, are you convinced Robbie Deans can't pick 15 players out of that to give the Lions a decent game?
Even with the infighting and the bar brawling and a couple of players injured here and there, you're right. On the basis of that game, it's looking like they're in a stronger position now.
It's decent. And so let's do that to move on to the next point. And let's look at the Waratahs result against the Chiefs. Now, I don't want to talk up too much about the Waratahs' chances here because they still have to do it away from home. At the moment, all their results have happened in Sydney. But, I mean, that changes the tournament. That really changes the New Zealand conference. It changes where the Chiefs see themselves in this tournament. And if the Waratahs can do that to the Chiefs, they can surely affect some other playoff runners here, like they're going to say here. And the main reason I'm thinking, looking at that, is we've looked at the conference and we've seen, okay, the Australian conference has been skewed with the extra week that they've had, with everyone getting 4 extra points at the beginning as opposed to everyone else. But we've always been looking at, well, with the Force and the Rebels and the Waratahs in the conference, the Reds and the Brumbies get to play them all twice. They could well run away with the whole thing. And so first and fourth could probably just be canned around those two, while the other conferences have to deal with more competitive games. But the Waratahs are definitely going to have something to say about this, where I think a lot of us kind of assumed that this wasn't quite their year. They're in a rebuilding year and they might not be able to do it, but something is working there. The Reds still have to play in Sydney and the Brumbies still have to play in Sydney. And I think those are going to be games that they're going to be as spicy as this one, I reckon, because there's a whole lot of Wallabies in that Waratah side as well.
Well, Wallabies were things to prove.
Yeah,
the original point, yeah.
Yeah, as the kind of selection mindset, it's going to be, although we'll check when the fixtures are, but basically the Waratahs are going to affect this game. Whether they're playoff contenders or not is another story. They still have to show that they can win away from home. They haven't won anywhere away from home, that's including Australia at the time. But they're going to have some things to say.
Yeah, totally. Agreed.
Last point. The Kings, God love them. They've been lovely this tournament. But they really have to learn how to host a rugby game.
Yeah, I actually lost my cool over the weekend. I couldn't watch that game anymore. I turned off about 10 minutes ago.
There was something about that. I mean, I heard everything when they were on tour. You know, when I haven't been to the stadium in Port Elizabeth, but I heard the loudspeaker saying defense, defense, and it made me cringe a little bit on the inside.
I thought it was like a once-off thing that happened, and everyone thought it was quite funny, but it's that stupid drum beat. Every time, and this is going to happen a lot, no offense, Kings, again, but the opposition will be in your 22, and that prompts that stupid drum beat. Oh, breaks my nuts. So it's
Absolutely.
Anyway.
The full-on DJ, the full-on smoke machine. Oh, it's just awful. It's awful, awful, awful. Please get rid of that. Please get rid of all that. Your team is good enough. You don't have to hide the rugby that the team is playing. That's usually what all the pyrotechnics are for.
Exactly. And if you want fans to behave themselves, don't put them in that sort of environment. Add booze and bad music. What happens? You think you're in a club. What happens in clubs, especially in those kind of areas? Fighting will break out. Whatever happened to like fans cheering and stuff like that? You know, that's where you get proper like ethics and decent sort of behavior coming out. This whole let's play the latest Avicii song 17 times on loop. It's terrible. It's shocking. It's like watching IPL. It's like watching the Varsity Cup. Two things that I think are absolute prostitutes to the sport.
Yeah, we always look at cricket for these kind of examples of using music during the live games in a kind of offensive kind of way. The IPL's gone thing. There's been some music creeping into my test cricket every now and then,
Good
which
choice
I'm really
of word
not
there.
enjoying.
Offensive. It is. It's offensive.
Yeah, I do find it offensive. Well, it's offensive for guys like you and me, like doing it. We like the IPL really isn't our bag, so we don't watch it. That's fair enough. It's easy enough to avoid, and it's done. We don't watch it. I kind of just follow the scores, catch a little bit every now and then out of interest, but it's not my thing, and I accept that. I don't see why it's really necessary in rugby. You brought up the Varsity Cup, and I can respect that being like a part of the product, all the music at the ground to try to make it a party at the ground.
Yeah, because everyone's stuck and you're in Varsity Town.
Yeah, I really don't think it's necessary for Port Elizabeth to do this. To
cheapens
this
everything.
Rugby team.
Cheapens it all. Speaking of cheapening, you done with your point there? Okay, because I was going to rant and I want to overthrow you. But somebody said to me, how can you not watch the IPL? There's so much player quality in it. And I thought to myself, okay, fair enough. But that's like saying, why don't you go to your latest strip club because all your favorite actresses are stripping? It's like the same thing. They're being cheapened to a point where you actually don't want to watch them. It's like, again, I caught my brother watching it the other day. He loves Jacques Callis, as we all do. And just watching him in that KKR Christmas cracker outfit, it just does away everything good that he's done in life. Just in that moment.
Yeah, for stars. I mean, obviously there's like a kind of cultural dimension that I just can't quite bridge. I don't get I don't get the fashion sense. I don't get the names of the teams. I don't dig the music. I don't dig the cheerleaders. But if you want to go and dig it, be my guest. Go ahead and dig it. Whatever makes more people watch cricket at the end of the day, I suppose I can't be too much against. But the one thing about the IPL, since we're on the topic, that I really can't get into, and I've been criticized as many for not liking the IPL. I consider myself a real cricket nut, but I've been criticized for not following the IPL. Like, I follow it, I'm just not watching it. But it's just so hard to care about the teams involved. I mean, if you kind of don't have a vested interest in a kind of Indian area as such, I just find it hard to care. I think the best way would be to kind of, maybe I should just find one big kind of pool of people willing to put money in and draw a team out of a hat and then go for it. But other than that...
Don't do that.
Yeah, but like other than that, I just don't...
Okay, so we've given the IPL way too much airtime here. We've got Keegan Krug coming up with our soccer. He's our football analyst. First up, the Swedish House Mafia. It's songs from my phone. That's the theme today. As you may tell, I've got quite a vibrant phone.
In a happy home.
This is Blogz on Ballz here on Ballz Visual Radio, ballz.co.za. Keegan, you with us?
I'm here.
Yes, brilliant, fantastic. There you are. Keegan, welcome to it. I found out last night that you are a Manchester United person.
I am a Manc, yes, you're correct.
Okay, so you're rather jolly right now. Very good.
I must say I'm in a very, very cheery mood this morning.
Okay, well, obviously that's going to be a big part of the discussion now, because the league, well, although we called it a few weeks ago, the leagues are basically sewn up around the world, whether it be Italy, Spain, France, England. So, out of all the titles that you've seen in your time as a Manc, how does this rank with the rest of them?
Oh, there's been a few great title chases and things like that, but I must say this one does sort of stand out in a way. After the massive disappointment of last season, losing the title in Fergie time, let's say it is. To come back and really grind out dominant this season was something quite special. And I'll be honest with quite a lot of people's opinions that probably not the best United squad I've ever seen, and also possibly haven't played our best football throughout the season, but yet again it was still enough to dominate the league.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like last year, I thoroughly enjoyed that final day because I'm a neutral. And when I say neutral, I mean I'm an Arsenal fan. So it was quite cool to watch that. But yeah, like that's the thing with class, though. You'll have a few slip-ups here or there. And you're right. When this season started, everyone looked at it and thought, okay, Man City can totally defend. But defending a title was a very different thing to winning it. And something that Alex Ferguson's always shown, that these guys can have their oil money, their trumped-up hype and all that kind of stuff. When it comes to winning, there's no one like him. He is the headmaster of such a thing.
Yeah, it's. I must say, it's something that's really installed. It's really installed in the club itself. I actually had during the week. Last week I had a look at some of the youth academy things, the programs they run at the club and at United. It's really installed. The history, the passion, the fight for the club is installed in those youngsters from the age of 11, 12 already. So by the time they get into the reserves or anything close to the first team, it's not really about you can have a bad game, but if you're having a bad game, you're still fighting for the guy next to you, and I think that's what the squad showed this season.
That's one very noticeable thing about United down the years that I find. Like every time a young player does come through, one that hasn't been bought, one that comes like through the academy, he always strikes me as just being a really level-headed guy that's able to deal with the pressure and the kind of cauldron atmosphere of Old Trafford. They really are bred to deal with it from a young age, I reckon.
Yeah, I think that's one thing, Sean. The club has done well. Alex has got a massive part in it. But I also believe that his coaching staff that he's brought in. That's the key to it. You've had guys through the years of the Solskjaers in there. You've got Paul Scholes working with youngsters in there at the moment. You've got the coaching staff all over the place who've been there for years. They really try and install it as much as they can into those youngsters. It's coming through. It's coming through. It comes through. Every year it comes through. But they're going to have to. Winning a title, like I say, winning a title is something, but defending it is always something special, and that's something that we'll have to look for next year.
For you, Keegan. Okay, so obviously it's the 20th title, which is 2 more than Liverpool. Although Liverpool's titles were back when lamb chops and tweed jackets were all the rage. But now, if you were to go to third place, you would find 13 titles. Now, there's 3 people that can claim that: Arsenal, Alex Ferguson, and Ryan Giggs.
It's absolutely crazy. I actually had a look at that that list of titles. If you look at some of those clubs that are on that top 6 of winning the title, it's crazy to see where some of those clubs are now. Sunderland is, I think, in the top 6 of that. It's just crazy on how United have sort of just stepped up and pushed forward out of that. You've got sides. I mean, we talk about the Chelseas and the Cities, and when it comes to history, rich history, there's none of that really at the moment. So it'll be interesting. It's quite a massive milestone. I think United, out of the 13 out of the 21, they've ended up second 5 times, runners up, and and third three times. So it's quite incredible.
In the Premier League era, I think this is the 21st Premier League season, if I'm not mistaken.
That's it.
And that's,
there we go.
And obviously that's 13 Manchester United titles out of the 21. That percentage alone is ridiculous. Of course, Alex Ferguson has been there. Sir Alex Ferguson, dare I not a Gary player and properly.
Basic, Sean, basics. I try to teach them to you.
Yeah. So Sir Alex has been in charge for 13 of them. Now, in that Premier League period of 21 years, just looking at the dudes that the managers that tried to get near him, like his closest contenders, what's it? Wenger on 3 titles is the closest.
Yeah, Wenger's by far the closest out of all of them.
That's not even touching distance.
And a Mourinho 2 and an Ancelotti 1 at Chelsea. You have to combine their efforts to become joint second at the third, which is miles behind the 13. A cheeky one at Blackburn in 1995, but they all just kind of came and went out of this division. And Manchester City on 1.
That's it.
It's ridiculous.
It's really incredible if you think about what the gaffer has done. I mean, he's 71 now, and he just doesn't stop. I mean, you looked at him last night. I was listening to you guys earlier, and like Ben was saying, the man just stands on the side of the field and just wants more every single time. And it's great. As a supporter, it's great to see because he doesn't want to be that mediocre side that just wins and sits back. He expects his players to give more. It's brilliant. I mean, for a Manc, it's a good day to be. It's a good day to be. It's a good day to be a Manc. It's a good day to be a Manc.
There's very few times a Manc can say that. Not the best place in the world. But Keegan, okay, like we can gush over Man United and their pedigree for years and years. They really are something to behold. And I heard something last week that Real Madrid eclipsed them as the world's richest club. But that's a lot of bollocks, isn't it?
No, they have taken over that.
Well, I meant more. Aren't they all in massive debt anyway? It's like they're the richest, but they've got like $1 trillion debt or something.
To be honest, I really don't understand how they actually do that. Measure it all up, because as far I do agree with you, every club's in a massive amount of debt, and they do have the Prince of Spain that owns a little bit into Real Madrid. I mean, the taxpayers' money goes into that club, so I don't know how they exactly measure it compared to other clubs, but yeah, they've pipped it, and good for them. Doesn't mean much at the end of the day.
Okay, well, onto the Champions League race now, with Spurs' very impressive win over Manchester City. Over the weekend.
I was actually jumping on the Spurs bus this weekend. I was trying to give. I wouldn't allow that funny-toothed little man to steal all their spotlight. To be 1-0 down, to come back the way they did to win that game was absolutely incredible. People have got to give AVB some recognition. He's done a wonderful job after Harry left, and he's proving that he deserves to be at sort of a top form club. I mean, he's built the side, he's rebuilt the side, I'm really hoping that they do make it into a Champions League spot this year.
He should really get a kick out of finishing in front of Chelsea if he pulls
massively,
it off.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely would have a massive kick.
But I would enjoy that. But do you remember it was earlier in the season when Arsenal beat them 5-2, whatever it was, when they were down to 10 men, and the people were asking questions about should he be kept on because he'd just been given the arse by Chelsea. And he was, let's be honest, he was a loss or two away from getting the complete arse from Spurs as well, and that would have ruined his career. But couple of wins, couple of the bounce of the ball, so to speak. Now look at him.
Yeah, I think AVB he comes across a bit like a slow starter in a way, and the more he gets into the job into the season, you can sort of see you can see a bit of him come out in the side. I think at the moment that's where they are at the moment. I also thought when they lost Bale for 5 games, I thought, here we go. The one thing it might be an ABB factor this year. He might push them. The typical Spurs thing is going to come out where they're going to fall apart. And they've proved us wrong so far. They're still there.
Indeed. Sean, anything to add on that?
Relegation, Keegan, what do you think around that battle? I mean, we can see that QPR and Reading are going to go down. I think we can all accept that. I think both clubs have accepted that as well. Probably all thinking about next season already. But with Aston Villa losing last night, that still keeps them in the hunt.
Wow, yeah, I had to actually look at this morning, and I was like, that whole relegation battle is back up. It's all open, wide open again. Villa, they got a poor goal difference. So that could cost them. Wigan still got to play with Villa. Wigan still got to play with Villa. Right in.
Yeah, Wigan are 3 points behind Villa. And they got a game in hand, but I know, especially the relegation zone, you want the points way more than you want a game in hand when you look at this table.
Definitely. You've got some, I tipped Sunderland maybe as the third one to go down, and geez, like all of a sudden, the Canio has got some confidence in that side, and they've picked up 2 great wins.
Yeah,
but
me too. I thought after he fired him, I thought that was that for Sunderland. I thought that was done. But then just 2, if you win 2 out of 2 in the relegation battle, that does so much, and just how it looks.
It changes everything, but I still don't think the sides on 37 points are safe, and that's Sunderland, Stoke, and Newcastle. They're not completely safe because if you pick up a few wins, we've just spoken about. You pick up 2 wins, Wigan or Aston Villa. Next minute, it opens up for another 3 or 4 clubs to come down. So that's the next 4 weeks. You've got to keep your eye on that because that's going to be a few crackers down there.
And then you see the tears. That's why I like the last few weeks.
Then you see the tears of joy and the tears of absolute sadness.
It's always quite funny when there's a sunny day. They're finally got a sunny day.
A cold sunny day.
And the tears flow. When it's raining, you think, oh, they're used to this. But
I'll tell you what, I had to deal with this a couple of years ago when Wolves stayed up on the last day of the season, and then you look at the projected table. It relied on like 4 games to go your way. You look at the projected table and you see there's that little dotted line between 18th and 17th, and Sky keeps showing you your 17th, your 18th, your 17th, your 18th. That is just one of the biggest roller coasters you'll ever have.
It is. It's quite something. It's proper theatre that last day, and sadly there isn't a title involved. But straight relegation this time around.
I mean, it's a weird thing to celebrate when it's done.
Yeah.
Yay, we weren't kicked out of the biggest division.
We aren't quite as bad as we thought. Yeah.
Something quite interesting is the whole. If you remember the good old Hull City when they just stayed up when you had a full brown over the microphone standing in the middle of the park. That was something that I will never ever forget. As a football fan, it's just something you do not see often. A manager in the middle singing to the crowd because they stayed up.
I hated that. I went from immediately going good for you, Hull, to 5 minutes later, I want these guys down next season.
Keegan, just to wrap up, can you give us more info about what's happening in the Cape Town Stadium with some interesting teams looking to play some pre-season games?
I've been hearing all sorts of things. It looks like a Liverpool date has been set. I'm not too sure. I think it was sometime in May, the 21st of May or something like that. I think the next side, the next side is Tottenham that came out. Apparently I've been hearing there's a third side still to come down.
So Newcastle, isn't it?
There is rumours it's Newcastle. I heard rumours a few months back that United should be making another trip back to the country. But it looks like there's going to be a host of EPL sides down in the Cape this year, which is brilliant.
What did you just do there?
You said, tell us what you did.
Tell us what you did there. You went EPL, didn't you?
Sorry, guys, I IPL.
Keegan, we are going to, unfortunately, on that note, we're going to cut you off here because we're into the second hour of the show. But thanks as always. Catch Keegan at Keegan Kruger on Twitter and catch him on thepundit.co.za. Bye, Keegan.